Hello everyone. So let's start the next module. In this one, we will learn about deep learning and we will try to understand how and why this deep learning got evolved. So in machine learning, we were having uh, a data as traditional ML models, algorithms, supervised, unsupervised, and different machine learning algorithms. But what happened over a period of time? This machine learning was getting saturated. It was a kind of reaching a limit uh, because the way the vast amount of data was increasing and unstructured data. So with this big data and a lot of unstructured data was getting pumped in and due to the mobile adoption, internet adoptions and different social medias and all that. So there were a lot of unstructured data getting pumped in. Then what happened? The traditional machine learnings, uh, whatever supervised, unsupervised learnings were not capable to uh, uh, churn that much amount of data, and that's where uh, uh, people were started thinking of another way of uh, solving this large amount of data problem. And then uh, they started thinking of uh, what if we can build a machine which can mimic the human's brain. So we will dive a bit about understanding of what is a human brain all about, and then we'll see how that evolution happened. So human brain has on average 100 billion of neurons and 100 trillion of synapses, right? So our brain has, so this is the one of a human brain neurons structure, right? So in human, let me get this pointer. So this is the human brain and we call it neurons. And these neurons has a body cell here. And this body cells is having a lot of dendrites, which is nothing but these are the sensors, different sensors which takes the inputs, right? And then that is a another part, this long one, and at the another end, it has another uh, structure which we call synapse. And this synapse in one neuron, there are multiple synapse endpoints. And this long tail kind of things, it's called axon. So this synapse, what it does, it connects to same kind of neurons, and it goes and it's tied with it might be another neuron similar to it at this part. So these branches are responsible for a specific kind of information senses. So, and in neurons, these neurons are having a different kind of responsibility clubbed together and they process those information. So seeing this structured and inspired by this structure of human brains, scientists started thinking to build something like this. So what they did, they also built uh, artificial neurons, which is similar to this, inspired by this is architecture, biological neurons. And they had dentries, I1, I2, I3, I4. It's nothing but its inputs. Its inputs get connected similar together into body cell, and then in the center it has activation function, and this activation function will have output, right? So inspired inspired by this architecture, they build similar stuff, and then they call it artificial neuron. So this is the one neuron, but this neurons is only one neuron, which is called perceptron, right? And this architecture getting clubbed together and formed dense network, and that network is having a three layer at high level. One is input layer, middle, which is hidden layers, which layers is not con- connected with either uh, of external endpoint. So that's why I call it hidden layers. And it has output layers, which will give output uh, to external system. So after this one perceptron clubbing together, we build this artificial neural network. And from here, we started calling it out artificial neural network. Hope you understand from where this inspiration come in and how this evolution happened. All right. So let's try to understand. So here, so early language models, right? The statistical era means we had a lot of uh, statistical model, right? So when we were building machine learning at that time, we built a lot of models. So those models were static, statistical in nature, right? So we had a kind of statistical method like n-grams model, which was focused on probability of words appearing based on the predicting words, right? So those were models, or beginning models, which were able to predict next probable word. So and a few models we were calling bigram models, which predicts next word based on the previous word. So limitation of those models were like those models were working only for short sequence of words. It's not a large corpus of words. You can give and it should be able to generate. Then uh, and it was uh, not able to uh, cope with use sentences, and it was not able to figure it out dependencies of um, uh, words within those sentences. So those were early era of uh, statistical models. So even though artificial neural networks start was quite challenging, right? And uh, initial phases, there were multiple iterations, and that's how any evolutions goes through, right? But when that era passes through, within the deep learning study, we have categorized. uh, total deep learning in a four or more section as well, but at broad level, we'll try to understand four um, architectural patterns were getting followed, and based on that, models were started getting built. So in those DL techniques, uh, there were earlier ANN, artificial neural network, the simple one, right? And then we had a CNN, convolutional neural network, uh, and uh, those convolutional neural network were basically built for image processing. Then evolution happened, and then RNN came in, recurrent neural network. That was evolution for speech and text processing. Then later on, GAN, generative adversarial neural network, came in picture, and that revolutionized uh, further uh, deep learning, right? So, and after that, uh, that's a transformer architecture came into picture. So we will try to learn uh, all these architectures, right? So in DLL techniques, NN, artificial neural networks, we are having just input and intermediate layer and giving the output. So input layer receives input and it has a hidden layer. That's uh, a traditional or normal neural network architecture is. And then output layer produces the final prediction or classification. And its application was basic image recognition, simple pattern recognition, and regression task. These were the normal task of it. Then CNN came in picture, convolutional neural network. So in convolutional neural network, uh, it was having a intermediate layer, uh, and that that was applying the filter to the input data to create a feature map. So uh, there were uh, and it was getting used for image processing, right? So what it does, uh, it was getting used in image and video recognition or object detection and image classification. So it gets image, then it's what it does, it's reduces the dimensionality uh, features, and then there was a pooling layer, and after that it's getting flattened, and then it's created output, right? And uh, that this was a pretty much sophisticated network in this CNN. Uh, we uh, we will not dive much because it's a totally independent field of learning itself. But at high level, we are trying to understand uh, what is the application of the CNN, and at high level how it was working, right? So after this CNN, we got RNN, recurrent neural network. So this RNN was having structure like input layer, multiple hidden layer, and output layer. But the thing was, output was getting fed into intermediate layer, hidden layer, as a feedback loop, and that's how it's repeat itself and it generates the output. And it was designed for sequential data. Sequential data, for example, our speech, right? Uh, Whatever I speech, this comes under sequential data because uh, there is a sequence maintained what I speak right now and uh, what will be coming next, which is related to. So sequential data, when we say sequential data, what does it mean? It means that if data is getting generated, then sequence or position of tokens in those data makes sense, right? So, so whenever any person, for example, any human speaks, so what happens? It spits out sentence, right? And in that sentence, sequence is having importance, and that is also depend upon language, which language it belongs to. So for a specific language, it has its own construct or grammar, and according to that, it has to follow that. And when it goes through any network in the same way, the output will also have a significance. And it for that particular sentence, it might be a different input will have a different significance and weight, right? So some of the filler of the sentences will not have a, much weight than nouns and verbs. So this is what sequential data example. And other example would be the share market. Those are the also sequential data, uh, and that can be uh, having a sequence importance into it. So this RNN was able to solve that problem. And neurons have connection looping back to themselves, allowing information to persist. So, so to having a maintaining a context, uh, for example, if I is- speak one sentence and next sentence will be correlated with previous one, right? So that's why it was getting looped back to themselves to maintain information into their memory so that they can make a decision based on earlier masses, right? And then they can process this one also. So that was the uh, importance of it. So it's maintains a memory, that's clear, right? So it's a time series. So it was getting used for time series prediction, natural language processing, speech recognition, and all those scenario, right? So this was the RNN at high level. Then we had LSTMs, long short-term memory network. So this was a type of RNN. It was specifically designed to learn long-term dependency and retain information over longer sequence. So earlier RNN was only maintaining a uh, previous tokens in memory, but here it started maintaining longer sequence of data so that it can make a very good, understanding, and more creative while responding. And long term time series predictions, and then it's got utilized in advanced NLP tasks like machine translation, speech synthesis, and all that. So in is- bigger speech to synthesize and all those activities, this LSTM was getting used heavily. So let's try to look back. What's the difference between DL and ML? So as we discuss in ML, right? Sorry. Yeah. So in ML, we learn all the uh, types like supervised, unsupervised. Underneath, we learn uh, regression. We learn classification. Then in unsupervised, we learn clustering, right? And in that one, uh, we were having multiple regression algorithm, right? Classification algorithms. Similarly, in clustering, also different algorithm, and that was mostly statistical in nature. But in deep learning, the story was different. The way that we were solving the problem, it was with neural network, right? So deep learning, why deep learning came in? Because due to the big data scenario, right? Huge data is started coming in. So that's where deep learning, by design itself, it's require large data sets. So until unless you don't have a large data set, you won't be able to build deep learning model. And it requires huge data, right? And can train machine learning can be trained on lesser data itself. So first is data requirement wise, it's a difference. Accuracy, this one deep learning, because it's been trained on vast amount of data, it has more cognition on data, and that's where it was having good accuracy. And traditional machine learning was having less accuracies. And training time, as we know that if it has a it's need a huge amount of data to train it, it's required longer time, right? And machine learning will take very less time. Hardware requirement. So this is deep learning is so much extensive in data and also in neural networks architecture, which always required GPUs to train properly. Here, this is the one of the big differences. Always in deep learning, if you are building a model, GPU will be required. But in machine learning, you can train on CPU itself. And hyperparameter tuning can be tuned in various different ways. Uh, and here, once you train and build a model, tuning is uh, very less opportunities. Then you have to, instead of tuning, you need to retrain. So this is the high level differences between DL and ML, right? So now we will learn what is Gen AI. But before that, uh, and to understand it, this is the part of deep learning itself. So, subfield of AI that uh, focuses on generating new content such as image, text, audio, video, code, 3D, and synthetic data. So, what does it changed? We will we will try to understand, right? So, we will try to understand um, foundational model concepts. Okay. So, foundational models are use networks architecture, right? So, this is again the evolution of deep learning in the neural networks, and it's a pretty much complex and huge architecture has been followed. And from there, that Gen AI's era started, and that era started because of transformer architecture. Okay, so to build a foundational model, we need uh, good architecture or use that can support use parameter that can be scalable, and that should be state of art because y once you are training and you stuck in between, retraining will cost you billions, right? And its weight and biases will be in billions. Data. So architecture is brain, then data is book. So it's required a huge data, and that data should be diverse so that it will not be having biases, right? And it will have a modality, means different modality should be in your data. Means if you are building a global model, then your data should be global in nature, right? So while training, you should be considering all possible types of data. Okay. So based on the which kind of model you would like to build, either language model, so all possible language you will consider so that it will not be biased for a specific language. If you are building for vision, right, you should be considering all different type of data sets. Recently in Google, right, um, uh, Bard itself, there was a issue concern raised that it was biased towards one specific races, right? Because it was trained or it was getting that kind of data only, right? And what task you need to perform with that? You should be clear, and uh, your architecture should be accordingly designed, right? So you should be knowing either you are going to do regression, classification, or both, right? And transfer learning. You see, after learning a next word prediction, uh, it can do sentiment analysis. So uh, the popular architecture are for this transformer, GANs, and autoencoders. So these are the architecture been followed, and based on that, this foundational based model has been built. We will learn those in more details in transformer architecture and foundational models, how it was built and how it has been evolved. All right. So with this, we are wrapping up module one. So in this module, we learned about GenAI and machine learning. Uh, what is generative AI, machine learning basics, right? Supervised reinforcement, core ML algorithms, um, application of GenAI, software development. So mostly machine learning basic we have covered, and we will try to understand what is the application of GenAI in software development. This is the section we will deep dive in more detail. So to after understanding the foundational model, what is a requirement, uh, we will dive into further foundational models uh, which are there and how it is being built. So what is foundational model? Why we call foundational model? So in 20, 2017, transformer architecture was introduced by Vashwani and other team member in the paper that called Attention is All You Need. This, if you would like to understand, you can go and read this paper in more detail. You would be able to get more insight about this. So, uh, this is a paper which was wrote and published, and this architecture revolutionizes the industry, right? So, the base model is typically trained to predict and generate text based on vast amount of data from various sources. So these foundational models were uh, built based on large amount of data. We can understand all the books, digital books, websites, and other written contents has been pumped inside uh, these models has been trained on top of those data in a right way to say that. And so what they did, they had two defining characteristics, that is transfer learning and a scale in the transformer. Means the good part is once you trained uh, the model on this huge amount of data, you don't need to retrain. These knowledge, it can be passed to another model. Okay, so this was a transferable, and that was the good part with this. And uh, this ability of model to apply information about one situation to another and build upon its knowledge was very, very advantageous for industry. Otherwise, training was costing too much. So that's where it's called a foundation model or base model. You, now you understand why we call it foundation model, right? Let's try to understand in more detail. So we'll try to understand foundation model, how to build LLM, right? So we can build any LLM Now from foundational model, we are going to build large language model. So to build a large language model, we need to go to three stages. One is pre-training, alignment, and fine-tuning. So in pre-training, we need architecture. So in this one, when we build, right, in previous here, you can see to build any foundational model, what we need these things: architecture, data, and task. These three information clearly we have to define and give that. And then we were able to build foundational model. So in the same way, pre-training, so pre-trained means base model is required, right? Then alignment. So on top of that, what we can do reinforcement learning with human feedback. So on top of this base model itself, we can apply uh, continuous uh, process through which we can keep on training from the humans, giving the feedback. For example, asking questions if it is right or wrong, if it is uh, any feedback required, give the feedback, right? And with that, iterating that process multiple times, you will be able to do the uh, retraining, right? And then next step is fine tuning. After doing RHLF, you can fine tune that model based on specific data. So for example, consider the students learning, right? When we do master, after master, we go and get research or PhD in a very specific subject, right? So in that sense, what does it mean? We are fine tuning this model human to be specialized. So after doctor studies, for example, uh, after 12th, either we can go to uh, medical or engineering, right? Af- Suppose choose the medical, then in medical you have to be specialized further. Going further, you are going to be neurosurgeon, a dermatologist, or those areas, right? So in the same way, you can understand this fine tuning is nothing but specializing that model on a specific data sets. So for example, either in medical domain or law, right? So after going through the three stages, you should be able to build LLM, large language model. So here is the call it out. Foundational model in GenAI are the type of machine learning model that is pre-trained to perform a range of tasks, right? And they have two defining characteristics. One is transfer learning and scale. Transfer learning refers to the ability of model to apply information about one situation to another on which it is built upon. And scales refers to the hardware, especially uh, you should that will be running on GPUs, and that allows model to perform multiple computations simultaneously, and that's what GPUs do. parallel processing, right? Also known as parallel processing. Yep. So deep learning, a technology that underpins many foundational models, teaches computers to learn through the observation, imitating the way the human gains knowledge, right? And transformers is a type of artificial network that is often used in foundational model, and that foundational model involves text, allowing them to capture contextual relationship and dependency between words. So the transformer was able to contextualize relationship between words, right? So the way this sentence was given in this way, it was able to uh, contextualize the whole sentence, right? And also it was able to understand which words depend upon which and relationship between those words. And it was also having memory pool as well, right? So after foundation model has been trained, then it can relay. So means that knowledge can be uh, gained from the huge pool of data to help up to use pool of data to solve another uh, uh, situational problem, right? So if it has been foundation model has been trained on transformer, so that can be uh, that knowledge can be transferred into another domain. And what it required, you have to provide some uh, human feedback or some uh, new data specific to your domain, right? So yeah, so providing valuable assistance in tasks such as natural language processing, computer vision, and audio processing in all those areas, this guys started getting used. So we had a architectures, right? Different architecture. Uh, so now we are getting into Gen AI understanding. So we build a foundational model, then we build a LLM, and those LLMs become a nature of generating new things. But those LLMs were getting followed different architectures, which we'll try to understand. So generative AI is built on advanced deep learning architecture, primarily transformer, GAN, VAE, and diffuser models. These architectures powers various Gen AI applications from text, image generation to music and video synthesis. So this is a typical transformer architecture. So it has an input and input embeddings and positional encoding. So embedding is nothing but machine doesn't understand text. So all text need to be encoded and fed into uh, zero and one format. So that's the encoding. And here positional encoding happens, and then it's uh, goes through and this will be having a number of layer, uh, and this one is uh, one is encoder and other one is decoder. So encoder decoder architecture, it seems like, and it goes through multiple stages, and this is one uh, architecture, and these architecture clubs together many times based on the uh, what is the architecture uh, and how big problem or how big data we are going to solve. So accordingly, it has been clubbed together, and that's where it's become a huge network, right? So this is the high level GenAI architectures which is powering in. So we will try to understand different architecture behind GenAI. First one is transformer. So it is used in text and code generation, right? So uh, the model examples are GPT-4, BART, Cloud, and Llama. So these are the models. So in this architecture, what it is, it's input data, it's go get tokenized, embedding layers does embedding, and transfer books. So this is the self-attention and feed-forward networks are. It's a very abstracted, and it's uh, does the self-attention and feed-forward, and then it goes to output layer, and then it's get calculated training and loss optimization. So how if it has been what is the loss function get calculated, uh, and if required, it goes as a feedback and gets trained multiple time, right? So it uses self-attention mechanism that and the feed-forward neural networks to process and generate text. So self-attention that comes from the self-attention that's you need uh, white paper, which bring that transformer architecture, right? And that is the base of transformer architecture. And feed forward means each stage will uh, uh, feed forward its learning, right? And key components are attention mechanism allows model to focus on relevant words while generating output, and training. So it uses large scale of data sets. Uh, yeah, for example, books, articles, codes, and all over the internet's data. You can provide it, and it's an unsupervised learning with fine tuning, right? An application of this transformer architecture is in chatbot scenario, text summarization, and translation, code generation. So example, GPT-4 generates response based on the input prompts by predicting the most probable next word. That's the only things it does. And with this, it generates a very good and relevant output, right? So second one is uh, GAN, right? So generative AI is built on advanced deep learning architecture. So primarily transformer, GANs, V, and diffusion. And these architectures powers various Gen AI application. So now we are getting it into individuals architecture. So earlier we saw transformer. Now we are going to see the GAN. So this is the GAN architecture. So this architecture uh, is getting used in image and video generation. An example model are style GAN, big GAN, and cycle GAN. So it architecture wise, it consists of two uh, computing neural networks. One is generator and discriminator, right? So this guy will generate sample and it's go to discriminator. It will discriminate that image. So it will have some uh, backend uh, of data samples, and it will try to compare, and it will discriminate, and it will generate the loss functions, and then this process will uh, keep on rotating, and finally with that it will be able to generate very relevant image, right? And for training this, generator tries to fool the discriminator, okay, and in improving realism over time. So generator will keep on generating new data so that uh, based on the text, it will inputs, it will try to uh, generate a new stuff, but discriminator will try to match is it uh, that image is based on whatever simple data it has trained on. It will try to uh, match how close it is, right? And with that flow, it's tried to improve and to become more realistic. Application of this architecture is the AI art, deepfake videos, face synthesis, the style transfer. So all these are the uh, application of this. One example it is StyleGAN generates highly realistic human faces from scratch. So StyleGAN is that to generate a human faces. The, this is a GAN which is more towards image generation. Yes. Right. And third is VA, variation autoencoder. This is used in image and data compression scenario. So, so it's follows the encoder decoder network. Where one is having encoder network, it's encoded into vector, and then it gets sampled vector, and decoder tries to decode it and generate similar image. So this is an encoder decoder architecture, and application of this is image generation, and also this is getting used in drug discovery and all that. And another one is diffusion models, right? So highly it is used in high quality image and video generation. So DALI 2, stable diffusion and all those are example of these models. So these models has been built and it uses forward processing and reverse processing, all that. So let's touch upon all the architecture, GAN, VAE, and feed forward and diffusion model. So this is how it looks like at high level if you'd like to understand. So GAN, adversarial training, right? So discriminator and generator. VAE uses encoder decoder, and uh, feed forward model it uses feed forward networks, right? Diffusion uses uh, it says yeah, forward process and reverse product. So it's this is a high level. These are the individual itself. It's a in-depth course, but for the software engineer, it is not required. Just to having a name, understanding, and architecture behind it, it's more than enough, right? So training and fine tuning, right? So how do we train and fine tune? So training, we already learned how to build base models, and that is called pre-training and foundational model. Fine tuning is kind of task specific tuning, and models are adopted for a specific application. Is it medical AI or legal AI? And it uses reinforcement learning and human feedbacks. But the these things doesn't comes without challenge, right? So it has its own challenges. So it required computational power, right? And it's a data, it's heavy data required. Okay. And ethical concerns are there. If you are not giving a right guardrails, so it can go beyond ethics. And interpretability is hard. So how it is doing internally, it is hard to interpret. With this, we learn all the all about GenAI architecture, foundation models, how it has been built, and after foundation model, how LLMs are getting built, and LLMs powered the GenAI stuffs, and there are different architecture about this. So with this, we can conclude that this module one is complete, and use cases of GenAI we already understand, right? So how where it is being used. So different architecture has its own uses. So that's their uh, uses area. So with this, we are concluding very first module, and we will learn next module, and we will carry forward all this understanding into that, and if required, we will revisit it again. Thank you very much. See you in next module.